Starfield's coming out very soon. And just to think, there's playtesters and reviewers playing the game right now. Not that I'm jealous or anything. And you may ask, Jeff, if you're not cool enough to be playing this game already, then why do you already have tips of this game? And my response would be, that's a little bit rude, but I've been playing Bethesda RPGs for about 20 years now, and so I kind of know how things go. I have a decent grasp on how these games play, and these tips are going to be valid for any Bethesda RPG that's already been released. This first tip is actually one of the tips I've had for the Tears of the Kingdom video I made, and it's actually the same tip I'd give for any open world RPG, and that's to find as many fast travel points as possible as soon as you can. Just like a lot of Bethesda's previous RPGs, fast travel is going to be a very useful tool. We're not exactly sure how Starfield's going to take care of fast travel, but seeing that it's the same creation engine, it should be pretty much the same as something like Skyrim or Fallout 4. Now, I'll often walk around the map trying to find all the unique locations in the area, and if there's any dungeons or caves, I like to go into them, do some looting, get some really good weapons and items, and then when I go back to like the main city and start to pick up some quests, it's really easy to just fast travel to the closest point to where like the cave is or like the area is that you need to be. So if like an NPC is like, oh, go to this cave and kill this enemy, well, you could just go to the fast travel point that's like right next to that cave and just go right to the cave instead of having to walk all the way out from the city to that cave. Makes it a lot easier. Now I know this isn't really going to save all that much time because you do have to walk around the map first, so I mean it's not going to save a ton of time, but later on in the game when you're doing a bunch of these quests where you got to go to certain areas and find things, it's going to make it a lot easier and quicker to complete the quests when you have fast travel points. My second tip here is to pick the weapons and skills that you want to use most early on. Now, in much earlier Bethesda games, you would have to really spec out your character, especially games like Fallout New Vegas. I know that's technically made by Oblivion, but maybe the same engine that Fallout 3 used. You really had to narrowly spec your character, or else your character wasn't really good at anything. So if you wanted to play a character with ballistics guns, then you really should focus your skills on those and only use those guns. Now in Fallout 4 and in Skyrim, you can max out every skill, so I'm guessing it's going to be like that for Starfield. But early on in the game, it does make a lot of sense to narrow down exactly what you want to start using at the very beginning, because it makes it really easy to just level up that one kind of weapon or that one kind of skill. And then later on, once you're at the end of the game, or if you've beaten the main story and you want to just keep leveling up your character, you can then just start to branch out and collect all the other skills. Third tip of this video kind of piggybacks off the second tip, and that's equip weapons of varied ranges. Now, of course, you're going to want to spec the character, so you want to make sure you're picking all of one kind of weapon. So like, let's say you pick ballistics, guns that shoot regular bullets. You want to pick, let's say, one long-range weapon like a rifle, one medium-range weapon like a submachine gun or like a shotgun, and one really close-range weapon like a pistol, or I would actually recommend something like a melee weapon like a knife or like a blunt object. Now when you do it this way, it doesn't matter where the enemy is. It doesn't matter if you're going through a spaceship in its tight quarters, or if you're on a big map and you're trying to get a jump on an enemy base. You'll have all the weapons that you need to attack enemies in various different ranges. And if you also choose to narrow down that weapon spec, so you're picking all weapons of one kind, you'll level up those weapons really quickly and you'll still be able to attack enemies no matter where they are. Alright, tip number 4, put a bucket over an NPC's head. I know this is a really strange tip, but in previous Bethesda RPGs, there was kind of an interesting physics where you could hold down a button and pick up physical objects. And in certain circumstances, you could pick up a bucket and put it on an NPC's head, and it completely blinds them. They cannot see anything going on in the room. And when you put it over an NPC that's like a shopkeeper or something, you can then sneak around the shop, steal whatever you want, and just get out of there, and they will never see you. And in this case, sneaking is like 100% effective. No matter how much noise you're making, no matter what you're doing, they cannot tell that you're there. Now, this was true in Skyrim and in Fallout 4. So even when they upgraded the creation engine to Fallout, when they developed Fallout 4, they still didn't remove this. So it's very possible that Starfield will still have this feature. Now, technically, it is kind of a bug, but I'm calling it a feature because it's something that people have been doing in these games because the game allows it. It is very possible, though, that they may have enhanced the AI in Starfield for these NPCs, and putting a bucket over the head may cause them to take the bucket off or be upset with you. I think it would be great if they just left that in so we could put buckets on people's heads and just steal everything. These games are crazy. And actually, you know what? It might be a good idea for me to make a follow-up video to this after Starfield comes out, just to see if any of these tips are no longer valid because of how they've updated the creation engine or how they developed Starfield. And if you're interested in that, go ahead and click on the like button here. That tells everybody that this video is good and you should see it. And go ahead and subscribe to this channel so you'll be able to get notified when that video comes out. Now, tip number 5 for this video, always make a profit when you have a transaction. Now, the best way to do this is to always be looting dungeons, going through caves and finding items, and then anytime that you need to buy something, like you need to buy some more ammo, or if you are in a shop and you see a better gun that you want to buy, to always have some stuff on you that you can sell so that when you do buy a weapon or anything else, that you make money off of that transaction. This way you're always making money, even if it's just a little bit of money, you're always making money no matter what you're doing. And then later on in the game, when you're building your spaceship and you want to buy all these parts and they require all these credits, you'll have been slowly building up credits in your stock over throughout the game, almost never spending them unless you really need to, and then you can just buy everything you want and you'll have tons of money for whatever you need. Now, we'll have to see what the economy is like in Starfield. We'll have to see if it goes off of more like a Fallout thing, where it's like a bartering system where you pick the things that you want to buy and you also pick the things that you want to sell them, and then at the end you just agree to the transaction. I'm hoping it's more like the Fallout one, because I've actually really grown to love the way that transactions work in Fallout, but it's very possible they're going to go with the classic Elder Scrolls style where you go through the shop, you pick what you want to buy, you buy the things, and you have to go into the sell menu and then sell things. But we'll have to see once the game comes out. All right, and the 5th tip of this video is to save as often as possible. These games are really big, and it's very, very common for games this big to have some weird bugs. Now, Starfield, from what I have heard from the rumors, this is going to be one of the most stable released games that Bethesda Game Studios has released in a long time. And I've seen it myself with every iteration of the creation engine. Every time that they release a brand new game, these games get more and more and more stable. And each game has far fewer bugs, far fewer crashes, but these things can still happen. So save as often as possible. It's not as bad as it was during like the Fallout New Vegas days, where I was saving in that game for like every 45 seconds because the game could at any time crash. I was saving before opening any doors because the game could just crash on the loading screen, or you could get to the other side of the door and then the game would totally mess up and you'd have to clear the system cache just to get out of the room. Some crazy stuff. Games have gotten a lot more stable since then, but I'd say even then, save as often as possible because you don't want to lose hours of gameplay because of something dumb like the system crashing. Now, saving often is actually good for other things too. So if you make a mistake in the game, or if you like attack an enemy that's way too high level and then they're coming close to killing you and you just want to revert back to the save before you even tried it, you can go ahead and do that, and you can save a couple minutes before you do anything big, and that way you just revert back and you only lose a couple minutes instead of losing like hours of gameplay. Now, I found out there's actually a term for this, and it's called save scumming, and it's often frowned upon. I honestly really don't care. I do this with games, and I actually texted a bunch of my friends after I heard that term, and a lot of my friends do this too. In my opinion, do whatever you want to do whatever makes a game fun for you. If loading a save to change a decision that you made in the game is fun to you, I'd say just do it. But yeah, save as often as possible. So if you do want to save scum, which is kind of a really weird term anyway, but if you want to do that, you can. If you don't want to lose a lot of progress, if you do have a mistake, like you die or like, the game crashes, you don't lose like hours of progress. Hey everyone, Future Jeff here. So I was editing this video and I came to the realization that I'm actually missing a tip that I meant to add in the original video. So instead of turning the camera back on and re-recording it, I'm just going to show you this tip in my game of Fallout 4. And so this is tip number 7 of this video, a bonus tip. It is pick up items with a high value to weight ratio. So what do I mean exactly by that? So if we go into my inventory, I can show you exactly what I mean. As you see here, I'm on the inventory screen looking at the apparel menu, and I am looking at the leather chest piece. Now, I specifically wanted to talk about this individual item because it has a high value to weight ratio. So the value is 61 and the weight is 5. So for every 1 point of weight has about a 12 cap value. Caps being the currency of Fallout. So the ratio would be a value to weight ratio of 12:1, which is really high for this level. This is a level 6 character. I just started it yesterday. So at this point in my playthrough, I probably wouldn't pick up anything that has less than a 5:1 value weight ratio, which is a lot of items. But you'd be surprised about how many items that are in these games have less than a 5-to-1 value to weight ratio. So if I actually go down one item, this is a good example of that. This has a weight of 2 and a value of 8. So that means that it has a 4-to-1 value to weight ratio. Now, because I had said I probably wouldn't pick up anything less than 5-to-1, you'd say, Jeff, why did you pick this one up then? Well, I'm actually right next to this Drumlin Diner, and this character, it's a little NPC here, she has a shop, so I can go in and I can sell those things. I just picked them up from raiders that I had just taken care of over there, so I can go over here and sell those things, so that's why I picked them up. So that is, basically the exception to this tip is that if you can sell something right away, definitely pick it up. Or if you're about to fast travel out of a location into a place where you're going to store something or sell something and you have space in your inventory, it doesn't make sense to not pick things up. Just pick up whatever you can to fill up the inventory so you can make some more money or get some more raw materials. But when you're going through a dungeon and you have limited inventory, it makes more sense to go by a value to weight ratio system so you know what to pick up. Now I want to say Starfield's going to be the same way as Fallout 4 is here for raw materials. So if I go into my misc section, or actually my junk, you'll see that every single one of these things also has a value to weight ratio, but it also can be broken down into individual items that are resources to build other things. Now you can absolutely create your own system for the value to weight ratio here based, and what I do for junk really, because I don't sell it, I base it on what I can get out of it for the weight. And so you'll find things like aluminum cans. For aluminum cans, you get 2 pieces of aluminum for every 0.1 weight. So for every 1 point of weight, you get 20 things of aluminum, which is a lot. So if you really need aluminum cans are the best value to weight ratio for that one particular item. Now if I go down to the tin can, the tin can has steel, but it's the same thing. It's 2 points of steel, or 2 steel essentially, for every 0.1 weight, so it's the same. For every 1 point of weight, it's 20 steel, which is actually pretty crazy because if you look up a couple items, there's literally just a piece of steel that is 1 steel and weighs 0.2. So if I broke down the tin can into 2 pieces of steel, it would actually weigh like 4 times as much per piece of steel that I would get out of it. But of course, you're going to be junking these things at your base or at your settlement, so that doesn't really matter. But I've just teleported up the menu to the ladle, and you'll see the ladle is also 2 steel, but it weighs 0.5. So for every 1 point of weight for the ladle, it's only 4 steel compared to the 20 of the tin can. So if you're looking to get rid of, junk items to bring your inventory back down below that threshold, you can find things that have less resource to weight ratio in the same way that you'd have value to weight ratio for the other items. And I do believe Starfield's going to have a similar system to this. So this tip most likely will translate into what Starfield's going to have. And it does make sense to talk about the reasoning behind all this, because of course if you go over that threshold, you can still walk. You won't be able to walk as fast, and you'll be quote unquote over encumbered, which is the status that you get when you go over, but you also cannot fast travel and you move very slowly. So that's the reason why you don't want to pick up just everything and overload your inventory, because then you have to let go of those items later on when you want to fast travel. So it makes a lot of sense to make sure to carry only the things that have a high value or a high resource to weight ratio. As of recording this video, Starfield, at least in the early access, comes out in 10 days. So if you're as excited about Starfield as I am, you can go ahead and click on this right here to see any of my other Starfield videos. And otherwise, I'll see you on the next one.